Okay, so academic students, here I have a demo lesson for you guys. Now, like we were talking about for the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I've decided, based on your feedback, that we're going to start focusing more on vocabulary and grammar in these demo lessons. Because basically we've done so many on structure and content and overviews and key features that there's over 20 lessons out. Like, after you complete Chris's course, there's over 20 lessons on task 1 and how to do those things. So we're going to take a look at some vocabulary and some grammar. So today's lesson, we're looking at typical verbs that you can use with academic task 1. Now, what's really, really great about academic task 1 is that you are 90% sure you're going to get a graph or a chart, and you can use the same language for all that type of information. So you might get a map or a process, so you'll also need to prepare for those, but 9 times out of 10 it's a graph or a chart, and you can use these verbs in most of your essays. So it's really, really valuable that you can get a high vocabulary score. You can prepare to get a high vocabulary score much, much easier than you can in any other part of the IELTS test. So let's just have a look at the typical verbs that we're focusing on today. So I have color-coded them just according to how they're used. So this first two, rocket and jump, so really they're very rarely used. So that would be when you have, like, say for example, if you look at my cursor here, when it's going along straight and then it suddenly just goes up really, really high, really, really quickly, that would be to rocket or to jump. So there are not many occasions you can use those verbs, and they're used in the same way. So when the increase is very, very big, we're going to use those two. And the opposite end then, plummet and plunge, is the opposite way around. So again, they would be used very rarely. But if you look at my cursor here again, it's when it's going along relatively stable, and then just goes down really, 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 really steeply. So that's plummet and plunge. So those two in the dark green and those two in the red are used in a similar way, but they're the opposites of each other, and you will very rarely get to use these. So it's good to know them. If the situation comes up that there's a very substantial or a very significant increase or decrease, you can use those, but don't feel like you can use those words in every graph or every chart. It doesn't work like that. On occasion, they're suitable. Most of the time, they're not. So make sure you only use them when it's a very steep increase or a very steep decrease. The next set then is this light green here. So increase, grow, rise, go up, and climb. Now these are all used in the exact same way, so you can use these interchangeably. So what's good, especially at the end of the essay, once you finish writing, you might go back, and very often students will overuse the word increase. So you might have some time for error correction, and then you're all done, and you notice, oh, I'm after using the word increase 4 times. So what you can do is just go back and put a line through or erase the word increase, and above you can just write in above the word you put the line through. So you've crossed it out, and just write one of these above it. So you have 5 words there. You can use a variety of those, and they can be used interchangeably. The same with these 4 in orange, so decrease, drop, fall, go down. So those 4 you can use interchangeably. They have the exact same meaning. They're direct synonyms. So it's good to know them. You can use them in pretty much all graph and all chart essays, as you can with the light green. You can use them in pretty much all the graph, all the chart essays, and you can use them interchangeably. So if you haven't used all of them in your essay, at the end you can go back and just pay a little bit of attention, say, oh, I'm after using this one too many times, I didn't use this one, and you can just cross them out and use them. So then remain stable then is in the middle to divide up, and remain stable is just pretty much a straight line right across a line graph. So those are going up, those are going down, those are going up a lot, those are going down a lot. So the ones in light green and orange, you'll use in pretty much every graph and chart essay. They're very, very valuable to have that variety of language so that you're not restricting your vocabulary score. So the next thing to know then is how to use them in context. So you will never use these words like this. You need to know how to have the correct grammatical structures as well. So very often we're talking about the past. So you're going to obviously have to use the past tense of the verb. So we have rocketed, jumped, increased, grew, rose, went up, climbed, remained stable, decreased, dropped, fell, went down, plummeted, and plunged. So again, if you're going to use these words, there's no point using them incorrectly. Very, very often we're talking about the past, so you need to have that exactly right every time. So with verbs, it's not enough just to learn what does the verb mean. You have to learn all the different ways: verb, past participle, past simple, the present. The next one then we're looking at is present perfect. Now the reason we need present perfect is because we're comparing, and present perfect compares the past with the present. So if, for example, this year is 2018 and the graph comes up to 2018, what you can talk about is from the time before you discussed. So let's say you discussed the year 2010, and now you're going to discuss 2018. So to explain what has happened between 2010 and now, you need to use present perfect because that connects the past with the present. That's the tense that's suitable. So here we have has rocketed, has jumped, has increased, has grown, has risen, has gone up, has climbed, has remained stable, has decreased, has dropped, has fallen, has gone down, has plummeted, has plunged. So with those, you need to be very careful, obviously, of the irregular ones. So we have quite a few here: grown, risen, gone, fallen, gone again, that are irregular. So you need to make sure that you remember those accurately. The next thing then might be that your graph goes into the future. But the thing about the future is that they're predictions, expectations of what will happen, but it's not definitely going to happen like that. So we cannot use will or going to. So we cannot say it will rocket or it is going to rocket because they're predictions. Just what we think will happen, not what will happen. So for that purpose, we have other little phrases that we can use. I have 5 here, which is enough. So is expected to, is predicted to, is shown to, is forecast to, is projected to, and is anticipated to. So I had 6 there. So with those 6, you can use those interchangeably. You can use any variation with the verbs. It's not that you can only use is expected to with rocket. You can say is predicted to rocket, is shown to rocket, is forecast to rocket, is projected to rocket, is anticipated to rocket. So any of these words, these phrases we're using to show we're talking about prediction can be used with any of the verbs I've given you there. So again, just be careful that you're using the correct verb tense. So we're back to just the base: expected to rocket, predicted to jump, is shown to increase, is forecast to grow, and so on. So just the base verb like we had at the start of the lesson. Right. So the next thing then to look at is how they are used in context. So the first thing to look at is the subject. So here we have the subjects, the labels. So the blue line represents England, the red line represents Scotland, and the green line represents Wales. So I cannot say Wales remained stable between 1998 and 2008. That's incorrect. Wales did not remain stable. I need to go back up and I need to look at what is the topic, what is the line representing. So it is representing Wales, but what about Wales is it representing? So we need to make sure we read the question statement accurately, make sure if there's some information on the side of the chart here or down here that we need to take into account. So even if you want to pause the video before I tell you what Wales represents, and it might be worth your while trying to figure out what would the subject be. So if I want to say from 1998, we're talking about the green line, from 1998 to 2008, what's the subject? Okay, so we look here at the question statement. The chart below shows the amount of money spent on sport by 3 countries in millions of pounds. So how we would describe it is from 1998 to 2008, Wales, the amount of money spent on sport in Wales remains stable. So you see the difference between, you cannot use these as the subject. The subject is the amount of money spent in Wales. That is the subject. So make sure that you're not just saying the country went up, the country went down. It's the amount of money spent on sport in that country went up or went down. So that's the first thing to be careful of. The second thing then is at the other side of the verbs we looked at, you need your preposition. So we could say for England, there are 2 ways of saying it. In England, between 1998 and 2008, the amount of money decreased from about £4.3 million to roughly £2.5 million. Okay, so from this number to this number. Another way we can do it is we can say, for example, we've already stated that it was 4.3 in 98, so I want to talk about 2008 now, and I would say, in 2008, the amount of money spent on sport in England decreased by, and then I can take my 3.5 away from 4.2, so that's roughly what, 0.5, 1, and 0.3, so about 1.7. So I can say it decreased by about 1.7. So you can say how much money it went down by with the preposition by, or you can use from this figure to this figure. Okay, so that's essentially it. You should have made lots of notes on that. If you haven't, I would say go back and make notes now. If it's something you already know, that's fine. If it's something new or used in a way you didn't know, make lots of notes, use them in context. And your question this week, you're not writing a full answer for me. All I want you to do is write sentences using the language we looked at to describe the amount of money spent in England, the amount of money spent in Scotland, and the amount of money spent in Wales. So just describe the blue line, describe the red line, and describe the green line for me. It might take more than 1 sentence for each line. That's fine. So you're looking at somewhere between like 3 and 6 sentences for this task. Just be aware that 2018 is here, so that represents this year, because obviously the video is made in 2018, or if you guys are doing this in the future, you'll need to know that just write it as this year in 2018, so what we're looking at is in the future here. So you'll need to use all the language that we looked at today. Okay, that's it. As always, just put your answers in the comments under the video, and then my global feedback tomorrow will be based on the mistakes that you made and the strengths from the various students. Okay, thank you all, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.